will trust in the yes, sir. I will trust in the till I die. I will. Yeah. I will trust, yes sir, in the Lord, yeah, till
Welcome again to the Hall of Wisdom. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing week. I want to thank you for your support, but you can continue to watch these videos over and over on the Hall of Wisdom YouTube channel. Please sign up and support us. But right now, I want you to stay tuned to this next clip. God bless you.
Chapter 3. I want to call your prayerful attention beginning with verse number 13. Here is the word of the Lord, familiar passage of scripture, but don't allow the familiarity of the text to rob you of a revelatory moment. Here is the word of the Lord. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. I want to tag this text, as the Lord shall give power to preach tonight, with a strange tag. I want to talk about how to create a new normal. How to create a new normal. Matter of fact, just so that you don't get lost in anything, you just tell your neighbor, we're talking about how to create a new normal. How to create a new normal. My brothers and sisters, there are those of you who remember that 15 years, or rather 14 years and 25 days ago, 14 years and 25 days ago, one of the most horrific and life-changing events happened in our country. 14 years and 25 days ago, 2 airplanes flew into 2 towers in New York City on September the 11th, 2001. And when those 2 planes flew into those towers, and even the plane that flew into the Pentagon, and even the plane that was headed for another target, but because of the heroic acts of those on the plane did not make it. That caused something very, very terrible in our country. And for this short introduction, here is the thing that I remember most about that particular time. On that week, one of the things that the president and even officials and newscasters would come on television day after day, they were admonishing the people of America to just go back to their normal routine. And I never shall forget it. And the reason why they were admonishing us to go back to our normal routine is because ultimately the president said that we've got to get back to a sense of normalcy. But what President Bush did not understand at that time, and we understand now better, is that there would never be the same sense of normalcy. What President Bush did not understand, brothers and sisters, and we do understand standing where we are, is that what America had to do is the same thing that gathering of champions and those who are gathered in this room must do, and that was create a new normal. Because going back to things as they were just wouldn't work. And I hear you, your thoughts have become audible in there, and those of you don't know me, I don't know you, we're getting to know each other right now. And so you're wondering if I received the memo as for what this august gathering was all about. You wondered if I knew that this was about consecration. You wondered if I knew what we were dealing with and talking about tonight. But when I really thought about this whole idea of consecration, one thing began to surface in my memory, and one of the things that kept popping up on the screen of my mind is that every time I would read about consecration and sanctification in the Bible, it was usually a precursor for God getting ready to do something new. Lord have mercy. It was usually a precursor for God getting ready to do something new. Because whenever you are going to consecrate yourself and whenever you are in a mode of sanctification, it is because something is shifting. And one of the great problems of the church, I'm about to wake up, I can feel it coming. One of the great problems of the church is that the church seems to get stuck too easily. The church seems to get stuck too easily. Isn't it sad that the only place in the world that majors in stagnation is the church? The church is the only place where you are celebrated for standing still. If you can keep things business as usual, if you can keep things from moving forward, then people will give you an attaboy. They will pat you on your back and tell you that you have done something wonderful because you have maintained things and you have kept things just the way they needed to be. But I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, change is necessary. Lord, help me tonight. Change is necessary. And whether you will agree on that point of whether or not change is necessary or not, here's another one you better swallow, whether you are hungry for it or not. Not only is change necessary, but change is inevitable. Okay, let's try that again. Change is necessary and change is inevitable. I know that to be sure. I know that for a fact. I know that change is necessary, but I know for a fact that change is inevitable. The first time that I preached in this very pulpit for Brian Keith Hodges some years ago, here it is, Tamika, I had a box fade. I had a box fade. Box fade. Yeah. Box fade. I had a salt and pepper beard. Box fade, salt and pepper beard. I had plenty of energy and could preach 2 hours without even blinking. But change is inevitable. I know this may come as a surprise to many of you tonight, but I no longer have a box fade. No, it's faded completely now. And the beard that used to be sprinkled with salt is now all pepper. Because change is inevitable. And don't even think about me preaching 2 hours. Don't have that kind of wind or energy or even a desire to talk that long. Because change is inevitable. Here's what I need for you to understand. The minute we stop fighting change, we can benefit from it. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, let's try that again. I said the minute we stop fighting change, we can benefit from it. I need for you to understand, you got to stop fighting it so that you can get out of it what God intended for you to get. But the reason why you can't get out of change what God intended for you to get is because you're too busy resisting it. Lord, help me, Jesus. And I came in here tonight to tell somebody, let the brakes off. And so I've decided that change can help me if I don't resist it. And so therefore, rather than resisting change, I embrace change. And now I tell myself it is important for me not just to get caught up in the same routine, but it is now time for me to create a new normal. Create a new normal, create a new normal, create a new normal. Can I throw this at you and then I'm done? I was looking at television the other day in my hotel room getting ready to go to preach. Looking at, and as I was looking at the television, I discovered that they're getting ready to put MacGyver back on TV. MacGyver. Now, some of y'all don't know what I'm talking about. You don't even have a clue. But I got 2 or 3 old schoolers in here that will tell you that was the jam back in the day. You understand? MacGyver. MacGyver was this guy who had all kinds of gadgets that no matter what he found himself getting into, he had a gadget that could get him out. And so when they said MacGyver was coming back on TV, I got excited. But then they burst my bubble because they said it will not be a remake of MacGyver, but it will be a reboot of MacGyver. I said, hold up. What do you mean? Hold up. Will not be a remake of MacGyver, but it will be a reboot of MacGyver. So I'm thinking to myself, what in the world are they talking about? And apparently, the person that was giving the report must have heard my ignorance, and she answered and said, what that means is it will not be a remake of the same picture, but what they're going to do is to bring MacGyver up to 2015, and this is the way he would be operating in 2015. Y'all ain't happy. I need to tell y'all that the problem with the church is that too many times we got remakes when we need reboots. And so how do we create this new normal? It's right there. It's right there in the text. First of all, if we're going to create this new normal with 31 minutes, here it is. First of all, there must be what I'd like to call a scrupulous assessment. A scrupulous assessment. Okay. Where do you see that in the text? It's right there in 13a. Here it says, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended. First of all, when you talk about scrupulous assessment, most of the time, most of us are assessing others. But if you're going to create a new normal, you've got to learn how to, first of all, assess yourself. Take a good, hard, long look at you. And I know that's very difficult. I know that's very difficult. We don't really want to look at us. We don't want to look at ourselves because it is easier to assess others. Isn't it interesting that when you are assessing others, the yardstick that is used in the assessment of others is a lot more broad than the the yardstick that you use to assess yourself. Because it is easy to talk about who's not this and who's not that and who's not the other. One of the things that I've discovered, the reason why church people cannot create a new normal in church is because church people really don't want immediate supervisors. They want the CEO to be their immediate supervisor. Okay, let's see. Let me see if I can make sense out of this. See, the problem in church is that the pastor can't be everybody's immediate supervisor. Because if he was everybody's immediate supervisor, the church would go faster. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to follow anybody but Bishop Hodges. Well, let me help you understand this. If he puts someone in place, you are following Bishop Hodges. If he puts someone in place and you don't follow them, you're not following him. Okay, I hear you. Your thoughts have become audible. I've been doing this a long time. I hear what you just said. The problem that I have is that the person he put over us, they not like him. They don't have his level of integrity. They are not as anointed as he is. And he don't even know their lifestyle. He don't know what they do. And he don't know what they into. Listen, and he don't know what you do and into. But he still lets you operate where you operate. Because if the truth be told, none of us would have a right to operate if it was based on what we do. Listen, I would love to tell you that I've never made a mistake. I'd love to tell you that I've never gone astray. I'd love to tell you that I never had a bad thought, but I'd be lying. But what I can tell you is that through it all, God has graced me with his anointing. I want about two folk in here that feel like I feel, that know that God has the incredible habit of using messy folk to lean over and tell somebody God can use whoever he decides to use. And some of y'all that didn't lean should have leaned, because what you don't understand is that if you're too holy to say that, you're the main messy one. I ain't scared of y'all. I don't even know you. How I'm going to be scared of you? Please understand, brothers and sisters. I understand all of this. I understand. You say you don't know us. You from over there in Decatur. I'm from Decatur, but I live in this same zip code. Run that. So I understand how suburbans think. I'm one. I understand Bushy. I am. Okay, I told you got to be true. See, if you're going to tell the truth, the Lord can bless you. Don't be bushy trying to play like you down. No, you bushy. Because if you wasn't bushy, you'd be living where Pook and them live. You bushy. If you wasn't bushy, you wouldn't be living behind them gates. You are bushy. Don't feel bad. Me too. But while we are behind gates and living in nice homes, we can't forget that we are behind gates in nice houses and still jacked up. You just a $500,000, $300,000, $400,000 living jacked up somebody. I know. Listen, the bad news is I got this sermon before you did, so I know exactly what you're feeling right now. that you got to assess. He says, brethren, I count not myself, not anybody else, myself, to have apprehended. Here's what that really says. Here's the interpretation of those tongues. I don't think I have it all together. I don't think I have it all. What would happen? And I'm on point number 2 because I'm running out of gas. Here it is. What would happen? What would happen if every person who is connected to Gathering of Champions, what would happen if every person that is connected to Rhema would say to themselves, I don't think I have it all together. What kind of instantaneous growth would take place in the church? What holds a church hostage is everybody feeling like what we have is good enough. Okay, can I push the card a little further? You know what makes people say what we have is good enough? Glad you asked. What makes people say what we have is good enough, because now that makes saying the next thing a little more comfortable. Because if I can say what we have is good enough, then I can say what I am doing is good enough. But if I say what we have is lacking some things, now I've got to ask myself the next most pertinent question. What am I doing to contribute to us going forward or standing still? It's got to be a scrupulous assessment. But then secondly, what you got to understand, watch this. Let me tag this. Let me tag this with this scrupulous assessment. So make it plain, and then I'll go to number 2, and I'll do that real fast. When you look at this whole scrupulous assessment, first of all, based on the text, no, I tell you what, I'll save some time. I'll add that in the point number 2. Here it is. So let's go to point number 2. Let's go to point number 2. See, the older you get, the more sense you learn. Okay, so let's go to point number 2. Point number 2. So not only is there a scrupulous assessment, but there is secondly, Jacob, what I call strategic advancement. Thank you. Strategic advancement. Now you have assessed yourself. Assessed where you are. Okay, so now what's the strategy? Because assessment without strategy is a wasted exercise. If all you're going to do is say, I'm jacked up, and do nothing, you are more jacked up than you thought. Because at least if I say I'm jacked up, the next intelligent movement should be, what am I going to do about this? Okay. It's almost like a woman getting beat by a man. You punched me the first time. Okay, you caught me off guard. But now, if I stayed for the third and fourth and even second beating, it is because I made an assessment in that mirror with that black eye. And I said, oh, this is jacked up. And don't do nothing about it. But if I get punched, look in the mirror and she better than me because I'm getting out of here. He won't get another chance. In other words, you start forming a strategy. So the question is, if this is what I like to ask people who have complaints about the church. If you don't like the church, what we gonna do? What's the strategy? What's the next move? What we gonna do? What we gonna do? And even if you like the church, watch this, because the next thing that can happen is that you love the church to death. What do you mean by that? You love it just where it is, just like it is, and you love it so much you don't want nothing to change, and you love it to death. So what's the strategy? Listen, he says, I know I'm messed up, but I got a strategy. My strategy has 3 parts to it. Here it is. My strategy is, number 1, selective amnesia. Number 2, a strong appetite. And number 3, a serious attitude. Now, what do you mean by that? Here it is. He says, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do. Here it is. Forgetting those things which are behind. Now listen, he says, forgetting those things. What this is an announcement of selective amnesia. Now please understand, amnesia is the loss of memory, but there are different types of amnesia. Don't have time to go through them all, but there is an amnesia called transient global amnesia. What does that mean? That's the kind of amnesia that I suffer with. You're getting older, and so you start forgetting stuff because you're getting older. You get it? But one of the most frequently used amnesias is the amnesia called selective amnesia. It is not necessarily that something was lost out of your mind as much as it is something was pushed out of your mind. Lord have mercy. And he says, if you're going to create a new normal, there are some things you're going to have to push out your mind. Push on your neighbor and tell your neighbor, if you're going to move forward, if you're going to create a new normal, you're going to have to push some stuff out your mind. If you're going to have a healthy new relationship, you're going to have to push that old relationship out your mind. You can't be in a relationship with Jim thinking about Bob. You got to push him out of there. And if you can't push Bob out your mind, let Jim go on about his business so that he can find somebody that loves Jim. So, let me see if I can make it fit church. How is it that people are always trying to treat and handle their new pastor because of something that happened with their old pastor? Or handle your new church because of something that happened crazy with your old church? This ain't your old church. This ain't your old pastor. This is something new. Treat it like it's new. Because the question is this. Many times when you always try to talk about people always did this to me, and people always did, and people always, and people, listen, they train me to listen to people. They train me to listen to people. They train me to listen. And when I listen to people, I hear stuff. And what I hear when you say people are always doing this, and people are always doing that. But see, here's what I want you to understand is that people over here did this to you, and people over there did this to you, and people over there did this to you. And here's what I need for you to understand. The only common denominator in all of those groups is you. So maybe it wasn't them doing it to you as much as it was you doing it to them. Or if they did it to you, it is because you set yourself up for it to be done. Martin Luther King says that nobody can ride your back unless you've been over. You can't be used unless you got sucker written across your face. So watch this. You got to have selective amnesia. Tell your neighbor, selective amnesia. But then you got to have a strong appetite. You got to push some stuff out of your mind. He says, forgetting those things which are behind. And watch this. I love this. He says, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. Reaching forth. The real interpretation of reaching forth, when you look at it in the Greek, is really to suggest stretching. Okay, in order to stretch, please get this, you cannot remain in the same posture. There has got to be some kind of shift in order to stretch. And this is what I don't understand. How is it that all of us want new stuff and yet we want to stay in the same position? Okay, this one gonna mess you up. And then we get mad with people who decide to stretch and leave us behind. Never get angry with somebody when they stretch and move forward when you had the same opportunity. I remember one time my sister, we had a heated discussion. That's what siblings do. Okay, don't be looking at me some kind of way. My sister called me one day, asked me for some of my money. And I that day decided was a no day. Didn't have a real reason other than it was just no day. And I felt like I was justified because I had said yes so many other days. So today was a no day. And incidentally, here's a bonus for some of you. Every so often, there should be a no day. Because if every day is a yes day, they won't even try to find no other way. They'll be sitting there chilling, saying, he ain't up yet. I'm going to wait till he get up because I know when he get up, he going to take care of this. So it was a no day. And I told her, I said, no, I'm not going to do that. She said, why? I said, because I'm not. Well, you got it. I do. Well, you should help me. I'm not. Well, see, that's not right because you have had opportunities that others have. I said, oh, time out. Your mama ain't my stepmama and your daddy ain't my stepdaddy. We had the same mama, same daddy, raised in the same house with the same opportunities, so don't run that one down on me. And then she threw this one at me. She said, well, but you a preacher, so you got money. I said, oh, I know a whole lot of broke preachers. Don't run that one on me. I said, the difference is what you haven't thrown at me is that I have taken advantage of opportunities presented to me. In other words, I stretched. So don't get mad at me if I stretch and you want it to stay the same. Look at somebody attitudinal kind of like, and tell them, don't get mad at me if I'm getting ready to stretch. People stretch when they're getting ready to ready to run faster. They stretch when they get ready to run longer. Tap somebody and tell them, stretch. But then not only that, I'm done. Not only is there this whole idea of a strong appetite, but there's got to be a serious attitude. Look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor a serious attitude. What is the serious attitude? He says, I press toward the mark. I'm serious about this. I get behind it. I put my weight on it. I'm putting everything I got in it. Listen, the problem with some of y'all is you too scared to empty your reserve tank on your dreams. Lord have mercy. Push your neighbor and tell your neighbor this is the season to empty your reserve tank on your dreams. This is not the season to be holding stuff back, waiting on something else to come down the pipes. But find somebody and tell them right here, right now. This is the season for you to check everybody in your circle and tell them, listen, if you playing around, if you ain't serious, you got to get away from me, because I'm all in. Go up and down your road. Tell your neighbor, this is the season to be all in. Why do you think he's calling for consecration? Because this is the season for gathering of champions to be all in. This ain't the season to be playing hokey pokey, 1 foot in and 1 foot out, 1 foot in and shake it all about, do the hokey pokey, turn yourself around. No, jump in with both feet. Tap your neighbor. Tell your neighbor, jump in with both feet. This is the season. I don't care if you've been married 40 years. This is the season to grab your girl and tell her, I'm all in, baby. I'm all in. I know we've been married a long time, but I need for you to understand, 21 years later, I'm all in. You got all my money. You got all my accounts. You got all my information, because I'm all in. I'm done. What would happen if every pastor in America, Lord have mercy, oh Lord, what would happen if every pastor in America knew that every person that watched them preach on Sunday morning was all in? I dare you to tap somebody, tell him I'm all in. Tell him I'm emptying the tank. Chris, let's go home. Tell them that, thank you, man. Tell them that I'm casting in all of the chips. Yes, Lord. And tell them that right here and right now, it is all or nothing. Yeah. Tell your neighbor that I'm going to win it all or lose it all. Cause I'm putting it all on this. Yeah. And some of y'all will say, that's reckless. Why would you do it all on this? Well, when I search the scriptures, it seems to me that many times God does not move. And Jesus does not create miracles until somebody have some reckless faith. Y'all ain't happy. It seems to me that Jesus And I heard the Bible say Jesus, yes, Lord, that was a man named Jairus, and because he cashed in, Jesus moved on his daughter's behalf. There was a woman from Cana, and she cashed in, and Jesus moved on her daughter's behalf. There was a woman with an issue of blood who cashed in, and Jesus moved on her behalf. And I even heard, there was two sisters who lost their brother. And when Jesus said, show me where you laid him, they cashed in, and he raised Lazarus from the dead. Lean over and tell your neighbor, neighbor, I want you to know, if you cash in, he will create a miracle. And I heard, yes, Lord, Paul say, he said, I have not been all that I should be. And in case you're writing points, here's point number 3, because not only is there a scrupulous assessment, and not only is there strategic advancement, but the last thing is there is a simultaneous application. Tap your neighbor and tell your neighbor there is a simultaneous application. Because here's what it said, Brother Professor. The text said, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do. Now watch this. He said one thing, but he lists 3. So how can he say, but this one thing I do? And he calls out 3 things, because what he's really saying is you've got to do them all simultaneously. What do you mean by that? He said when he said, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching towards those things which are before, I press. So what he's saying is you got to have selective amnesia, a strong appetite, and a serious attitude at the same time. You got to kick stuff out and reach for something at the same time. You got to press at the same time. And I don't know if I'm the only one in here that know that can happen, because that's happening in my life right now. Because there are a whole lot of days I got to preach to folk and encourage them when I'm discouraged. So I'm stretching. A whole lot of days I don't want to get on airplanes, but I got to go. I'm pressing. A whole lot of days I don't want, yes, Lord, to let some things go, but I'm letting it go, because if I don't do something I've never done, I can't have something I've never had. And hear that, anybody, anybody that knows this is the season that you stretch, you press, and you kick out at the same time. Go find somebody and tell them I'm created a new normal, kicking stuff out, stretching forward, and Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The first day of the rest of my life. I ain't done this in a long time. I'm through. Thank y'all for letting me come. And I want to find two people that can DQ. I said DQ. What does DQ mean? Come out of your section. Find another section and shake somebody's hand like you're going to shake it off and tell them, can't wait till tomorrow. I got to start tonight. I'm not going to wait to break, but I'm starting tonight. Recreating myself, getting new stuff, because I got to get the prize. Is there anybody that know that if you recreate yourself, create a new norm, you win? That's all I want to tell you. While you're consecrating, recreate yourself, because if you do it, you win. And I just need you to look at somebody and tell them, recreate yourself, because if you do it, you win. Now that person didn't feel like talking. Find one more and tell them, recreate yourself, because if you do it, you win. That one is stuck up. Find another one and tell them, recreate yourself, because if you do, you win. Well, if you can't get nobody to talk to you, be like David. Lay hands on yourself and encourage yourself in the Lord and say self, and answer yourself, say say we got to recreate ourselves, because we're gonna win. And all I want to know on my way to my seat, are there any winners in the house? Are there any winners in the house? If you know you win, let me hear you. Zion! Zion! Yeah!
My God, did our pastor, Bishop Stephen B. Hall, preach a mighty word on today? And it was for right now. Listen, I want to thank you again for tuning in to the Hall of Wisdom. God bless you, and thank you again for your support.